The governor of New York has signed an executive order allowing remote notary. Joining me today to talk about this is Brittany McMahon, a real estate attorney. Thank you so much for joining me, Brittany.
Thank you for having me, Paula.
Brittany, let's talk about this executive order that changed things temporary now. At a closing, documents need to be notarized and signed. How is that working out now if you cannot interact face-to-face with your clients?
So the executive order allowed us to do what's called remote notary. So that lets, say, you and I talk over Zoom or FaceTime on our phones, and it lets me notarize a copy of something that I saw you sign in the video. There are a couple of rules. You have to prove to me that you're actually in New York State. A lot of times people are just in their houses, so they show me, their picture of them in their house.
So it's acceptable just to show your ID on a phone or video conference?
It is.
Oh, okay.
Yep. They're showing me, their address and comparing it to their driver's license. That's okay. As long as you can prove to me that you're in the state of New York when you're signing, I can notarize that copy. Then within 30 days of that interaction, we have to exchange original signatures so that there are two versions, basically, two sets of original signatures on copies.
If the clients have to go to your office, how is that working out?
What we're doing right now is, as much as possible, we are reviewing everything over the phone with people so that they still have that opportunity to ask questions. It's a big deal doing a closing. You need to know that you understand what you're signing. And that's my biggest role as an attorney, is to make sure that you understand that. So we do that in advance. You come to my office. We have several conference rooms, so we are able to just have your documents on a table in a conference room in advance of you arriving. You walk in, you sign, you just make sure that you notify someone in the space, typically me or one of the paralegals, that you've signed. And then we just go in afterward, make sure everything's signed appropriately, and everybody completes their closing that way. It's a little less personal, but it is definitely the safest way to do it.
Are you using this method for real estate clients or for other clients as well?
For purposes of creating wills or powers of attorney or healthcare proxies, ideally we would like to have people signing those documents remotely so that we're able to avoid that kind of contact. But there are some people who just don't have the technology available to do that. So there are limited circumstances where we are allowing wills and powers of attorney and healthcare proxies to be signed in the office in the same manner.
And if someone was in the middle of a divorce, how does that work now?
So that's a good question. So right now, if people are in the middle of a divorce and they're also selling property, typically people have their own matrimonial attorney for their divorce proceedings. That stuff is on hold right now in New York State. We're slowly seeing more and more ongoing matters be added back into the calendar, which is excellent. But for purposes of selling that property, we act as the representative for the sale itself. So we are the central attorney sort of communicating with the matrimonial attorneys to make sure that those sale proceeds, if there isn't some kind of agreement about where that money is going to once the closing is over, we make sure that one of those attorneys is holding that money pending some kind of agreement or pending a judge submitting an order saying what's to happen with it. So the sales are still going through. It might just take a little bit more time to try to get people to come to an agreement about what happens to that money.
Okay. And you had mentioned before that you do have clients that you cannot move forward, for example, like contractors or construction.
Yeah, right now, new construction is on hold. So there are some instances where things are a little more delayed than we anticipated. New construction generally takes longer than resale properties. So if you were buying my house, you're talking probably 6 to 8 weeks. New construction can be like 6 to 8 months. So right now, builders are unable to move forward with getting permits from municipalities. They're unable to move forward with the actual construction because there just isn't a safe way to do it and have only 1 or 2 people at a construction site. So that's something that's on hold. So for right now, we're just kind of waiting to see what happens and waiting to see if on May 15th, the governor allows everybody to go, sort of full steam ahead in new construction.
What if that doesn't happen and the deadline is still extended? You and I had talked about this, that New York State is different than other states. I
It
mean,
is. Yeah.
how is that going to impact what you guys do, and even the businesses that are on hold right now that you cannot work with at the time?
There has been talk of rolling out ways to sort of incrementally bring people back to work. So I think we have to wait to see what that extension is, if there is an extension, and what kinds of people are going to be allowed to go back to work, whether there will be phases of construction that can start again or not. We'll have to wait to see, but it may just be more of the same thing, sort of things on pause and certain documents being signed electronically over a video chat. And we may still just be operating the same way that we are to try to complete transactions we can in the safest manner possible.
Is there talk of, in the future being able to actually do this, notarizing documents virtually, or is this just happening for the lockdown purposes?
So this is something that attorneys have wanted and pushed for a really long time. There's a very big lobbying effort to have remote notary. In New York State, at least for closings, things that we're doing involving real property, New York State loves original signatures on documents. And all of our county clerks all operate entities, and they love original signatures on documents. They're very uncomfortable, I think, recording documents that don't have that ink where you can see someone actually signed it. Other states do a lot of things electronically already, start to finish. It's very different in California and Florida, and I can't speak to every other state, but
Sure.
New York State is very, very much in love with having that original signature. So right now, this remote notary is a temporary thing. It was something that was an executive order that gave us the right to do this. It's not something we otherwise had the right to do. So I'm hopeful that this is something that continues. It has been very convenient for certainly our elderly clients who are otherwise limited in mobility. This is something that has been wonderful to help them. It's also something that has been very convenient given everything going on when there's an emergency to have the ability to do something like this. I don't know if it's something that stays permanent, but I hope that this aspect of it is something that we're able to continue in the long run.
Now, Brittany, I don't think we talked about this, but how does it work? Do you email them the document, they print it, they email it back to you, they have to scan it? How does that work exactly?
Yeah, that's one way to do it. So we have to email them the document or mail it to them and set up an appointment in advance. They show me that they're signing the document. Then they have to scan or fax or take a picture with their phone of the document, show me the copy, and then I have to have the ability to print that copy and notarize the actual copy in person. So then I mail them that signature of mine. They mail me their signature, and we sort of do the same thing on the copies within 30 days of the actual communication.
Technology is great.
It is great.
It works.
Especially if it's working.
Brittany, is there something else that you would like to talk about that I didn't ask you yet that you would like to tell the viewers?
I would just say that a lot of people are nervous right now, and it's okay to be hopeful. Industries limitedly are adapting to the current circumstances, and certainly real estate is one that is adapting. We have a lot of colleagues, even outside of my own firm. We've all been helpful to each other, making sure that we're all safe, making sure that deals are still happening. So regardless of everything going on, people are still buying and selling, and that gives me hope that we'll come out of this stronger than before.
Brittany, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Stay safe and healthy.
And thank you for joining us for this interview. Be safe and stay home.